Indian Chamber of International Business. Welcome everyone today from Indian Chamber of International Business. Today's session is on the future of education. Today, we have a lot of people who are really worried about what it's going to be, how it's going to change. And it's all a new paradigm for the students, for the parents, for the teachers, for management of institutions. And, we've not faced any such issues in the past, at least in our lifetime when it comes to these pandemics. So it's a new normal for all of us. But as we say that change is constant and we should all get used to and adjust to the new normals. So this is an initiative that we are taking up and bringing all the stakeholders on the forum, and we are asking everybody to put their views across. So we'll be using this as an interactive session. Please feel free to use the chat box, introduce yourself, put your name, email ID, institution name, and your thoughts. If you have any questions for the speaker, we have our team looking at the chat boxes. So I request you all to please put your questions in the chat box also. And we will all be taking care of all the questions. They'll be answered after each session. So we are having broadly 3 sessions today. And each session is something specific that we will be looking at. And I hope you all really enjoy today's session and give your valuable inputs also from your side. So we'll be opening up the session after every speaker for question and answers. That's broadly how the format is going to be. I'd like to introduce the Indian Chamber of International Business briefly. My name is Manpreet Singh. I'm the president of Indian Chamber of International Business. We have about 2,800 odd members spread throughout the country. And it varies across all sectors from manufacturing, trading, education, research. Our main focus is MSME. That being said, we have a lot of focus on research and development, education, skill development, and we have tie-up with a lot of reputed institutions for the same, including IIT Bombay. We are also having partnership with the Babasaheb Ambedkar Technology University, a few universities abroad too, and we're looking to partnering with more educational institutions where we will be able to help the students and the institutions overcome the problems that they're facing, and ensuring that there is a lot of genuine skill that is developed. A technical education or a basic education is something which is very mandatory. But today's requirement is a lot of holistic approach that we need. For example, the school children, we want to focus a lot on developing their intellect, on developing their life skills. So this is the focus that we will request all the institutions, whether schools or colleges, to take it up and to see how best this can be improved. Our chamber is always there as a support for that. I would also like to highlight that we are having a presence in about 38 countries all over the globe. And we have partnered with a lot of foreign institutions, foreign governments, Chamber of Commerce's, partner organizations, Indian embassies abroad, Ministry of External Affairs, foreign ministries, and to ensure that all these benefits are available to the industry at large, our members and non-members also. We operate more like an NGO, so feel free if you have any questions regarding anything under the sun, we and our team will be happy to help. Moving on to today's session. Today we have with us Ms. Fatima Agarkar. She is heading the Agarkar Center of Excellence, and she'll be talking today about what's different. What do we look forward to? Is it a boon? Is it a bane? What has happened in today's times in the sector of education? And we would like to hear her views on the same. And Fatima ji has been interacting with a lot of institutions, let it be up to K-12, K-7 schools, colleges, and other educational institutions. Her views on the same are going to be very enlightening for all of us. I now hand over to you, Fatima ji, for your presentation and your views. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Manpreet. It is a day for technical glitches, and my topic is education technology. But I think that's one new normal that we've all embraced ourselves positively, to recognize that perhaps the pandemic has come at a time to remind all of us that for the next 100 years, we cannot afford to ignore what we have in the past 100 years. Difference between the past pandemic and this one really is technology. But every country, be it India or the developed nation like America, still has technological challenges. Numbers are staggering. America wants to open up their schools because they don't have IT capabilities in those homes to ensure children in public sector schools are able to receive online learning. Can you imagine? It was 2 centuries ago when a science department actually introduced remote learning. From then to now, IT capabilities, our building capabilities have been dismal. And I dare say the next 3 years are going to be crucial. We're no longer going to be able to ignore education technology. We're no longer going to leave it to research, science, to say, oh, wow, you know, there are advantages for this. This is our reality and we need to scale up. Interestingly, in April, when UK was still open, Barclays Investment Bank published a very interesting report for all industry personnel and all stakeholders, be it those who are looking at education, technology, and investment, be it those who are in it, receiving this disruption and seeing what to do to optimize in it. So I think education has plenty of potential simply because we haven't done enough. So that creates a gap. That also creates opportunities for investment. Quite frankly, we need this because that, Barclays investment report was pretty specific when it says that the GDPs of progressive countries are going to depend on this industry, which is education technology, which actually, disappoints me in some ways because in our country, instead of figuring out what our challenges are, making sure that 23% that we keep going with, that's the connectivity and that's the reach in metros or smaller towns, we're not thinking of how to build capacity. We're thinking about bringing people down who have the capacity. So you've seen what's happened in the last, month. You have people, governments getting involved and saying, no, online learning is not good. That's not education. I mean, we cannot be more far from the truth. It was only in 2000, I beg your pardon, where the global education system recognized that blended learning, which means a combination of physical spaces and something virtually, will be the future. When GeoGlass launched the GeoGlass, you're talking about augmented reality, and still governments are saying, no, K to 12, please don't teach them online because it's too much screen time. The world has evolved. There's enough statistics, be it talks or Stanford, that will tell you active engagement, which is the format that blended learning takes, which is engagements, which is dialogue, conversation, is not recreational engagement. It's not gaming for fun. It is engagement for learning. We do not know when our schools are going to open up. Parents have voted unanimously to say they are unsure of the safety. Therefore, unlike some of the other countries in the world, India is resistant to open up K to 12 schools, including villages. You've seen what's happened in Taiwan. You saw what happened in France. You saw what happened in Singapore. These are smaller countries. They can control spike. So tomorrow they open their schools. They can shut it down. They can bounce back. We have a problem of numbers. So alternative to physical spaces is remote learning, is now schooling at home, is virtual engagements. But I'm sorry, we cannot just think of it as an alternative. We did that 2 centuries ago. A scientist spoke about the advantages of education technology. We didn't do anything about it. There are handfuls. Manpreet, what's scary is from the progressive schools in this country, I mean, top schools that invest in R&D, that are, prepared. They were sort of prepared, like, Wimbledon was about a pandemic, or at least ensured themselves against a calamity. Nobody else thought this would happen world over. So very few schools had technology that was ready to go into an offline so that their children won't miss out on learning. Please, those who are listening to me, researchers, scholars, or anybody in the education space, please do not look at this only as a stopgap. At the moment the vaccine comes, schools will go back to brick and mortar, and we don't have to think about education technology. That will be the limitation. That will actually be a step back. If we have to move, if our GDP, if our economy has to create opportunities, we do have unemployment challenges. If we have to look at EduTech as now the space for creation, not only better learning, but better business opportunity, better programming, better availability of talent and resources to push this economy forward. This is Digital India. So the importance of this topic cannot be emphasized enough. And I'm glad, the Chambers of International Business have taken this up. And we're going to have some honest conversations every time I do tend to call the elephant in the room. So that's my report card about education moving forward. I've always batted for technology because I think there are inherent advantages. And, I'm praying to people, whether it's governments, whether it's decision makers, whether it's school owners, to not talk about technology as screen time. I think we need to get more evolved. I think we need to understand the inherent advantages of what the real power of technology is, which is, it gives credibility to the teachers. What? You're going to, Fatima, you mean to say teachers are going to be replaced by technology? I'm not suggesting that for a moment. I am just saying, think about the children born today. Think of the children born in the last decade. Think about children going to be born. They are going to be born in a world which is tech, which uses tech in different ways. Imagine now the teacher being able to use gamification or some sort of online tool to make it more engaging for that child. The teacher is looked upon then as a facilitator, is looked as a partner, and that is the changing transformation of learning. So for me, this generation or the generation in the future is going to react more positively to learning if we embrace technology because they are users, because they work and understand that language. This is going to be very important. Honestly, EdTech is going to, God, eliminate the boring stuff. Why do I need to take attendance for 10 minutes in that class? This can be done using EdTech. Scanners, things like that, logging in, you can have all those done. So automation is good because automation is allowing you to take it away from the mundane stuff and actually focus on what you should. If you had a 40 minutes, imagine if you could actually be talking for 40 minutes and not telling them sit down, don't talk, can't go to loo, who's present, who's absent, when did the homework get submitted. It was minimization. And that's a fact. That's the report card that this industry has produced in the pandemic. Time to say, yes, we didn't do enough the physical because we stretched the rubber band instead of optimizing it. So there's automation that's going to bring in efficiency. Automation that's actually to call elephant in the room and is going to call out those with no subject matter expertise. You have a digital footprint when you talk about technology, which basically means you need to know your content, be able to deliver because someone is recording that, and that becomes history. It's very easy to manage quality. It's very easy to self-learn. It's very easy to improve. Manpreet, you spoke about it. I mean, the whole point of your organization is skilling, is the ability to use research to get better. What better a platform in the EdTech platform? Also, the access to information is actually profound. Honestly, Google is a good teacher. The only difference is, can the kids then utilize their own critical thinking? Life skills is a big part of what your organization talks about, to know what information to use when. How do you authenticate the information? How do you know what is actually relevant, what is actually secure, what is going to be? So imagine using this platform to get the kids to understand life. I mean, I hire these kids who come in from digital world because you know what? They know what to do, when to do, how to do it because information was available for them. That means they all have to do is research and work out the best possible permutation combination. I've been in this industry for 20 years, and I dare say we teach really well, but we don't teach our children to make decisions. It has that ability to give us that advantage, give our children the advantage. You know, I think it was Carnegie Mellon that published this report to say 85% is life skills. It's only that 15% in any technical industry that where you need that technical know-how. Everything that can be repetitive can be automated thanks to the algorithm. So think about the power that this EdTech has to create. So if we can eliminate what we keep doing again and again and focus on creation. Imagine we may have had a vaccine 2 months into this pandemic. We won't be in lockdown from March to July had we had that power. So some of the things to think about, and this is where I get really excited because you can have all the information. I remember when I started in 20 years ago, we were talking to all these enterprise guys, and they would tell us to create these big servers and store information, make it very territorial. I mean, gone are those days. Today we're talking about clouds. Today we're talking about information that can be extracted. Today we're talking about work from home with efficiency. I mean, there's been no change in productivity simply because we have access to our information. If that information is available, and I'm part of a research working with an international organization talking about how to change curriculum so that we can map it for the future. So we're not talking about 2030, we're talking about 2080. What do they need then? And we're going back and back, and thanks to technology, we're able to see how to make those subject connections between English, math, and science, how to bring it together so that even an average teacher can deliver. Now, that is the true power of education technology. Why didn't we skill up? Why didn't we invest in it? Because we are that generation that says, listen, if it's invested, why mess it up? Why rock the boat? The boat got really rocked when the pandemic happened and we were caught out. So, the other advantages of EdTech, I mean, come on, we all know that. It allows for personalization, it allows for individualization. I have classes which are live, but I can record information and let the child do it during the child's time for optimization. So that basically means maybe 8 o'clock in the morning works for me. Maybe for you, 10 o'clock is your optimum time. Did we think about how the child learns? We didn't, because we had a routine in the physical world, and that's what we did. There was no other time. Now, with technology, we have the option of creating personalization, basically saying that every child will succeed, which is the big narrative change from the standardization that worked with us when we just taught in the physical world. Different ways to learn. I mean, when I was looking at the GeoGlass presentation and I saw Akash and Isha talking about learning history through geography. I mean, you're putting these glasses, of course, expensive, but that cost will come down. And that's another advantage of technology. The more research going in, the more evolution, cost will come down. But the beauty is, I'm a humanities student, and I remember my teacher telling me about Australia and this great red soil and Ayers Rock. Chances are, at that time in my life, I would have never visited Australia. That country made no sense to me. But imagine being transported through augmented reality into that zone and having someone explain it. It brings alive learning like I can never explain, which would be a far big change from rote learning that we were used to, because then we had to, page 9, paragraph 4, that's the answer that we have to put it. But if I could visually see something, if I could experience it using a 3D printer, which is the part of technology, if I can touch, feel, and understand it, I'll never forget. I don't have to remember. It's just going to be a part of my, visualization. That's the power of education technology, and that's what we're going to see. We're going to see 3D printers as projects in school. I'm going to say everyone's afraid of technology, thinking it's going to be expensive. It cannot be far from true. When the first 3D printer came out, the costs were in thousands. It's down to under that now. With every technology creation, there is this need to improvise, and with that need to improvise, the cost comes down. So somewhere I feel that because we are a generation that's caught in the 1900s and trying to be in the 22nd century, with this generation that doesn't know when to break away and when embrace the future. We are that generation, unfortunately, that's making those decisions for technology. We need to quickly skill ourselves up so that the decisions are made for the industry to progress, for our world to progress, and education, and the way we manage our resources now as a country will dictate how our GDP works, will dictate how our economies work, will dictate how our employment changes. And this is not a case of the elite having it and those in those little towns having it. This is what we do. This is where we skill up, and this is where we need to bridge the gap between public and private. This is the focus that the government should be doing. Leave technology and schools to lead the progress. So you know what, with every good thing, there have to be some negative, right? And there are enough critique out there. Those who love the brick and mortar schools and love the fact that you walk into a classroom and those tables tell you that maybe a Ratan Tata had sat on them, or Sachin Tendulkar was sitting on that table. You want to hold on to that history. Maybe there won't be tables for tomorrow. Maybe the classroom spaces will be actually in the garden or near the swimming pool or on top of the roof, because technology will actually transform all of that. You don't need to be sitting on a table and listening. You can actually sit on the floor and have a conversation with your teachers. So this is the beauty, but then there are critics, right? Because people like to hold on to things, and some amount of criticism that has come, forward, I do believe has some merit in it. I'm not saying that this one is, an angel without the devil in disguise. There are inherent challenges as well. The thing with technology and with education and technology is that it might just get what people call addictive. It might be a little bit of distraction because children might get lost with the information and the kind of spectacular opportunities there are. Gaming might take it away from a middle schooler to academic essay. Yes, there is this huge evil that talks about distraction, that talks about mental health, because there are statistics out there where certain sections of children have been roped into, unfortunately, cyber crime, cyber abuse, all of that. But hey, can this be controlled? Can we have systems in place? Can we have etiquettes in place? Can we have firewalls? Can we have checks to limit its evil? I'm going to say that over-the-counter drugs are available. What's stopping the kids from going out buying? But we don't, right? Because we have checks in place. A 14-year-old cannot go into a bar without an ID. So there are things that we recognize perhaps meant for adults, mature people. So why don't we think of controlling these distractions or these mental health issues in a way that eliminates those fears? So yes, some more that has come out. I mean, quite frankly, right now we've only got into this online teaching. Wait till the first quarter comes and then we'll get into assessments. I think we've had enough of feedback with CBSE cancelling exams, with universities cancelling exams, and oh God, entrance exam. How will they evaluate? What is it that they're going to judge our children on? So I do recognize that prison and cheating, if I could just as simply as possible, is going to be one that needs a little more attention. I mean, how many ever cameras you put in, a kid doing it online may resort to different hacks. Something to look into for all of us in this space. Yes, children tend to then just put information without citing it and without checking the authenticity of the sources. That's another bit that we need to clean up. This is where regulations come in. This is where cyber experts jump in and put those checks. Well, there's an argument that technology will replace teachers. I know there's a Florida university that's already doing this research. You have two avatars actually replacing physical world teachers with avatars, as they're called, and apparently they're as humane as they possibly can be. I don't think so. I think we will go with the fact that technology can be used to better learning, to optimize learning, but it's eventually the teacher's ability to suss out socio-emotional challenges that a child faces, be that confident, quickly come up with solutions, because everything cannot be an algorithm. 100 years from now, it may be, but at least for the next 100 years, we see a partnership. I'm reminded of the iRobot movie, where robots were actually going to replace a workforce. I'm going to say we're a few years from, but let's not be fearful. Let's use it to say we control that technology. We have the ability to decide what and how much. And I think that's going to be very important. Yes, there are obvious issues for privacy. Anything that's out there in a digital footprint is going to be leading to exposure, whether it's government or whether it's schools. We're all sort of in that position. But that's where companies are working hard to put in checks. Schools are working hard to put in their own security checks. Again, you control the amount that you can expose children or people or your teachers to. So I think that by a point can be a controlled factor, but however, it continues to be one of its technology's limitations. I've already mentioned that children sometimes lose track of time. It will become tendency. I mean, today I have to say I'm a middle schooler's mom. We were talking yesterday about the 19 cases and what are the spikes in different parts of the country. And quickly he's Googled and he's pulled out those statistics and said it. Now, what if that technology fails you? What if you don't have connectivity issues? What's your other alternative? So yes, there's that dependency on quick quick answers and immediate need, and we seem to get really lost. Just discussing how, oh God, I'm not on my data cable. So yes, there is that dependency, but again, can be controlled. I mean, you eventually are in a position to decide how much you want to. I'm still of that generation that reads. So I still pick up a hard book cover and read, but I also read as much on LinkedIn, which I consider a great opportunity to pick up industry news, news of around the world. It actually keeps me very updated about my industry. Should we do in the physical world without this sort of collation of information? The last bit is really about making this a little more complex. So what's going to happen is the one big stakeholder who's going to have to work harder is the teacher, because planning online requires some hardcore work. It's a lot of effort to put in the data to be able to generate the right task. It's all dependent on content and your ability to use the right data point, note points to be able to come up with those outcomes. So not an easy option. It requires a lot of effort, maybe time consuming. But I think as an industry, as a country, if we think about the next 40 years and not just about 2021, 2, 3 to 2020 to 2030, we think ahead. You know what? I think we're going to be at a far stronger position. I mean, that Barclays investment report is talking about potential in Southeast Asia for business companies and learn growth. I mean, this is the one opportunity where then every child can be taken on. And I'm going to say, please don't think of an Apple computer at 1 lakh. Today, there are options, Dell options as low as 10,000. Now, can this be a government initiative for public schools? Yes, it should be. This is where the money should be spent. This is what's going important, as important as the midday meal, because you cannot keep these kids away. That's where the talent lies. That's where possibly the best coder might come to create a better solution to learn. So unless they have access, we are going to create a bigger divide. And I'm against that. I feel the whole country needs to move forward, and we have to think that have capability need to move forward, and those that need to skill up need to skill up. That's really an exciting place to be in. I think that's the future. I think this is the future that will hold us as a country to become the powerhouse that we want to be it a Made in India theme or just sheer power to create. I think it's about time we have more creators from this country, and technology is going to help us for that. Thank you. Over to you, Manpreet. That was what I had to share this morning.
Thank you so much, Fatima ji. It's such a big insight that you have given us today. I mean, I can't imagine that, right from the practical experiences to your experience regarding Australia and how in today's times, you get such a holistic approach when it comes to how things were happening, are happening, and even might happen. And what are the things that, we as part of the industry, part of the education industry, would like to look forward to go ahead and adjust ourselves to the new normal. You mentioned regarding the AI part and the 3D printers part. I'd like to highlight that one small school in Kerala, we have received a lot of WhatsApp messages nowadays. They have gone one step ahead and gone into AI. There's this teacher who's teaching in a classroom, and there's this nice big elephant that comes next to her, and a very interactive session. So there, the child gets to imagine. It's all about imagination. It's all about using your abilities and to utilize. That's what teaching is all about. You also mentioned, regarding everything is available on Google. And but more important is what is important. See, information is everywhere, but how to use that information and where to use that information and how that can adapt in a child or a student or a teacher's life is one of the most important factors. That's where the guiding force is really needed. I have a habit of talking with examples, so I'll give you my example. Me as a student, I think I was one of the most outstanding students of the class. So it used to be like some teacher or the other always used to ensure that I'm kept out for some reason or the other. Sometimes my mistakes, sometimes others, but that's irrelevant. But I think a teacher's ability is to say that when and where you are wrong. It is a course correction thing that a Google or a technology cannot do. So teacher can never be irrelevant, or even if you have an avatar or something, they can teach you. They can tell you what information they have. But a teacher's place, let it be in school, college, or anywhere, that is never going to go away anywhere. That's going to come out like a course correction. That's going to tell you when you are wrong. So we need people to pull our ears and to tell us that, that's not right. And that's not right. And this is what you really need to do. That is something that, yeah.
So Manpreet, actually, this was a grade 3 question. So it was a math question. So the teacher had said, there were 25 people on the beach and 30 more joined in. This child's answer was that should not be allowed. It will lead to a community infection because he is so consumed with it. Now, the algorithm would have marked incorrect, right? Because you didn't give the answer, which is addition. But what the teacher did right is love the real life connect, love the fact that you linked it. I should have changed my question and asked you, if there were 20 hypothetically and more came in without this scenario, what would your answer be? See, that's the beauty of a teacher. This a machine cannot give you.
So true, so true. And regarding the touch and feel also you mentioned, there's a lot of difference between dissecting a frog in a laboratory and doing it on a 3D printed model. And I still remember in schools, children starting to dissect and the frog running away. So these are the things that, develop the child's responses, I must say. That will never be going to be happening online or anything. So it's just a matter of time. Technology will definitely assist us. and guide us, but not replace us. So this is something that we all need to understand as teachers and as leaders of the industry. Another thing, initiatives that are going on, I would like to highlight. Everybody's, in fact, my daughter's in school, she's in the 3rd grade. And, we used to crib about her screen time and don't use the phone and don't use that. And now we are giving it to her 3 hours a day. And, we don't really have a choice. So it's for us to explain to our children also and our students what is good time and what is bad screen time. So this is one of the most important things that we need to highlight to our children also, that, that everything has two sides of the coin. Everything has a good and a bad. So we have been telling you bad screen time because you've been looking at cartoons all along and not getting anything out of it. But like you mentioned regarding your example of the over-the-counter drugs, you know what to get and where to get, but you know what is right and what is wrong. Similarly, we have to explain to our students and the children that, okay, this is good screen time and this is bad screen time. And we cannot say that, oh, you're not going to be using, I mean, look at us, as adults, as elders, how much time do you spend on social media? It's definitely much more than our children. So we need to highlight this, the good and the bad of things. And you also mentioned.
But Manpreet, I want to point it out, all those, and we've been in discussion with psychiatrists, psychologists, and mental health professionals as well, because we want to understand what is the optimum screen time. Of course, for younger children, you cannot have them watching television just before they fall asleep. So those are certain routines you set in place. But Manpreet, what's very interesting is that there is actually a very reduced amount of correlation now with screen time and glare. So, as long as you are blinking every 20 minutes, as long as you move your gaze. So there's a lot of science that's developed also over the period of time. A lot of the products are anti-glare. So you have to understand that the evolution of the technology products are not what they were 20 years ago. So with that, it's active engagement. This is the Oxford study in the last decade. If there is a social connect, if you and I having a conversation, that's considered to be active engagement. That is still good, especially in lockdown times where children do not have that social connect outside of their family. So we have to think of research and its relevance. And those who tell me screen time is optimal for this, that research has been based on data when it was recreational, not when it was online learning. So I think we need to be specific when we're quoting statistics.
So true, so true. In fact, there are some teachers that are really going out of the box. I'll give you two examples. One is from a school of Bombay, and one is from a school of Northern India. So there's this school regulation that says that teachers have to come online, they have to be online from this time to this time. This is the syllabus to be covered. The SOP, the standard practice that every school is following in online classes nowadays. So what this teacher in the north did was, the children were not understanding. People were complaining. The teachers can't do anything because it's a direction from management that, okay, you have to do this. This is the syllabus. This is what you have to do. So this teacher started recording those sessions on her own, on her other device, and started sending it by WhatsApp to all the children. Because children, the attention span is very less. Let it be an engineering student, a medical student, or a first grader. The attention span varies, and every child cannot cope with a different nature of attentiveness. So these teachers started sending out WhatsApp messages that, okay, whenever parents are convenient, they can explain it to the children. Whenever children are convenient, they can look it across. And this is something that the school is still not doing. But the teacher is doing it for her children because of the passion for teaching. So this is one thing that I think really needs to go out to all the industry bodies, our managements of schools and institutions, that you are recording everything. So I request all of you all to put it out to the children. Let them use those recordings. What would a management do with the recording of a children's session other than for maybe attendance later on? So if we really are serious about giving education and not just getting our fees or getting ensuring that the syllabus is complete, we really need to ensure that the education is imparted out. After 1 year, if we really assess of online education that, okay, what the child actually knows, we might be in for a surprise. I mean, we would have completed the syllabus, we would have completed everything, maybe online assessments, 98 out of 100, all of them. I mean, you go online, you find really innovative ways of cheating and finding ways to pass exams. I mean, I can have 10 post-its on my phone stuck, and I can, keep using those. And there's no way to find out what's happening and how. So we really need to ensure that knowledge is given, and assessment is something secondary. And one exam does not define you as a student or as a teacher. It's knowledge. So after a year, when you clear this year and go into the next year, things become normal. That's when the real test will begin, where you'll suddenly find there are people with lack of knowledge, lack of skills. We have this thing in professional courses that after coming out of the institution, Indians are not skillable. They are not employable. We have to train them right from scratch. I'm part of the industry body also. And we find that we recruit engineers and they're not capable of engineering qualifications. This is something that we need to relook at. And as educational institutions, as teachers, professors, doctors, researchers belonging to the industry, ensure that yes, we need revenue. Yes, we need, as a business, we are running an institution, but we also should ensure in the broader interest of the development of the country and society that knowledge has to be retained. The student or the person who's getting this knowledge has to ensure that he implies it and utilizes it. So with that, I would like to end my point of it. I'd like to throw open the floor to all people who are dying to ask you questions. And we just, we are having a lot of technical glitches today. So we are requesting all to unmute themselves one at a time. Please ask your questions. Fatima ji is here with us today. Welcome all. You all can unmute yourself and ask your question. One at a time, please. Anyone? Looks like we've answered all the questions. I wasn't expecting that. Tina Chaudhary ji, you've raised your hand.
Hello. Hello.
Yes.
Hi, sir. Myself, Karche from Baramati. Are you listening me?
Yeah, we can.
Hello,
hear
sir.
You.
Yes, sir. Actually, I want to ask one question. Nowadays, as we are just now teaching online to the student, is it really fruitful? Means, as we were teaching previously in the class, students were in front of us. Now, at the present, they are just present at the house, in the house, and through distance learning, we are teaching. So, will it create that rapport as it was created previously? Natural.
Right. So honestly, at the moment with the distance learning, because it's a platform that you're also taking on for the first time, you're going to have to create the impact. So instead of passing over information which is available in the textbook and just rating it on an online class, you'll have to invest a little more in building the rapport. We call it tuning in activities. And this is applicable from nursery up to post-graduation, because unless there is a social presence online, the kids are going to shut off their camera and mute themselves. I'm doing audits of a lot of schools, especially middle and high school. If you're not interested as a person, if you don't come in with a bit of innovation, or you don't come in with a bit of activity based, you're not going to make a difference. Because then it's information that they have in their textbook and they can do it or read it online. So you have to work at creating impact is what I'm saying. Which is, so supposing I'm grade 8 and I'm going to have to teach them about research skills. I come in with a date. So the topic in the morning on a Monday morning when you're logging these things at 8 o'clock in the morning, chances are they've only slept at 2 o'clock in the night. Recognize that you will first need to make that social connect. So start off with a debate. Start off with world affairs. Start off with gamification. What was League of Legends? Know what your kids are doing, thinking, doing. Use that as a case study to first create a presence with them. Then please understand what you did in the physical world cannot be done in the virtual world. So you are going to have to rethink your content. You are going to have to make sure Like he mentioned, bring in objects, use tools at home, do it yourself activities, try and bring in augmented reality in some form so they can visualize it. Basically, what you took 40 minutes to say in the physical world, you're going to have to cut it down to 15 because of the attention span. Park it away. Reduce. So rethink how much you are talking. See how much you can get children to engage. Let children do independent work as well. You have to rethink your content. You cannot believe that the same impact in the physical is going to be there in the virtual simply because it's the first time our country is doing it. So you have to stress on social impact. There's drama tools. You just Google online, just go online and check for attention grabbing activities, for creating social presence, for engaging children. You stop getting fixated about how many screens you can see. If your kids are not using their cameras, it's okay. You continue egoless, talking about activities, you bring that energy in, you give them a quiz, you use gamification. Possibly they will learn a lot more than they did in the physical world. Golden rule is those who slept in the physical world will continue to sleep in the virtual world. What will you do to make it interesting? So please understand that. That's why I said more pressure on the teachers. But today you have polls, you have quizzes, you have a game. You can actually create a game, all free. Try it, and I've done it. I've done it with grade 3, 4, 5, 6. I've let the teachers to show them how to do it. 40 minutes. If you are going to talk like how Fatima did right now, cameras will be off and people will be logging off, telling you there's bandwidth issue. You're boring. This cannot be an adult conversation. With my nursery children, I created a rainbow behind. So my first question was like, oh, Miss, what is it behind? What so many colors? I had to teach them colors. I used the rainbow and I got them to do an activity in their windows. Now, all those homes have rainbows on them. Sorry, parents, but children learned Vibgeo in a way that they would have never learned before. But I did it in 10 minutes and said, okay, bye-bye. I said, no, we want to still do more. You end before they want you to end. So there are tricks and techniques. Please check my LinkedIn profile. I've given a lot of strategy for how to create impact. Don't duplicate physical world. They're going to log off.
I think that question is so well answered. There's nothing left to say after that. To add to that, like I always say, I talk with examples. Just about a week or 10 days back, we did a workshop with the Rotary Club, one of the local Rotary clubs. We came up with an idea of let's try and do a storytelling session for children. And we ensured that, because like I said, I also have a daughter and it becomes very difficult to engage them in these times. So we took it up as a storytelling session. We gave it a theme. We will read out stories. But we kept the session so interactive. It was just a 30-minute session. I was surprised everybody was logged in before time. I've never seen that people logging in before time, especially for something which is relating to reading or writing or school. So they came up and, we read about the small snippets from Ramayana. We kept it. We did not read the whole story. We picked up sections and there was no connect between all the sections. We ensured that, there's some kind of a disconnect where the children think, okay, what happened? What happened to that story? What happened to this story? And we ensured that in every paragraph, there was one word which was so difficult. And we used to ask the children that, okay, now tell me what is the meaning of this and what is the meaning of that. So that kept the children engaged. Sorry, technical issue. I'm on the phone. So that kept the children really engaged. So that is what we as teachers need to do. We have to engage with the student, not come, talk and go. We have to ensure that we ask questions. We have to ensure that we ask them to do a project and bring and explain their project. We have to ensure that they talk. So like in a class, when a teacher is there, I remember in my school, I used to get thrown out with chalks and dusters when we were half dozing. So we do not have chalks and dusters in these online classrooms. But we have like videos that says boom and what the hell happened. So that is the kind of interaction that we need to do and bombard our students or our interaction to ensure that there is engagement. So the key word is engagement for a teacher with the students. So that is what we really want to focus on.
And Manpreet, what also happens happens because of technology. Now you know your children, you've taught for a week, you also recognize that 5 of them never log in. Then out of the 5, who have logged in, 2 of them have basically switched off themselves. You can actually, like you said, send them a record and send them a question to after they've seen the recording. You can do so much more personal work, which in the physical world, you won't have the time. So it's a lot more effort, Manpreet. It is not easy. I think kudos to teachers to really stretch themselves. But it is possible to find examples of what you can do. Like I said, attention grabbers, brain break, eye teasers, so many activities available. All you have to do is just Google, use one or two on your, on your class sessions. And one thing I've learned and has worked beautifully, actually the day you are going to teach them quadratic equations, what, tell parents, please send dabbas with them on their screen, because all you do is eat with them. I can't tell you how important that would be, because you know what, they start thinking of you as a person who's cool, you're talking to them, you've got their attention. By the way, teach them quadratic equations, because what it is, you can use those objects and also teach. So I think a bit of innovation will need to come in.
True. Thank you so much. I would really ask the host to please open up and unmute the participants to ask the last question of the day. If anybody would like to ask Fatima ji a question. Okay, we are having interaction and singing in the background. Yeah, Ida Amlani, please ask your question. Ida Amlani ji, you can ask your question. Please unmute yourself and introduce yourself.
So I've been working on the virtual learning classes.
You can little closer to the mic. We can barely hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm an early childhood educator, and since the lockdown and this pandemic is over, I've started virtual classes. My question is, how as a teacher or an early childhood educator can I bring a blend between the virtual, like a blend curriculum for my children, a blended approach in this remote learning area?
Yeah, so I think you'll need to understand that the blending learning is a combination of physical spaces and virtual learning. I think what you're talking about is the creativity in the virtual engagement, where you can use a lot of the physical spaces in the house while still engaging with them. I think you'll have to think about it as a mind, body, soul approach. I'll also advise you to look at a subject area or to look at a concept including all subject areas. So for example, like I gave you the example of rainbow. Rainbow is a pre-math skill that I wanted to make sure that my children know, right? We talk about primary and secondary colors. What I did with that is also linking vocabulary, like Manpreet just mentioned. What I got that, so there's a little bit of effort that you'll do pre-class. So what you'll do is you will let the parents come in a platform with you and share what are the tools and objects that you need them to prepare and make sure the children have when they come in for day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. So on day 1, all I did was have 3 children wear red, 3 wear purple, 3, basically divided the colors. And I have the rainbow put up. So that's where everyone got excited. You have that color, and that's where the identification took place. Then I said, okay, children tend to get confused between the word purple because we've only talked about primary colors. That's when we said, okay, another word for, something that looks like pink, but it is something like a little bit of mauve as well. So we actually did an experiment because I had pre-planned the parents to have a bit of water and a bit of color in front of me. So this is where in your mind getting the children to engage. But I ended that with a physical activity. So they actually use their arms to create letters, you know. So with your colors using the like this. Then I made them run and go to the kitchen and come back, finding an object that represents the color that we see. You can use physical spaces in very quick when you do that. I don't think you should worry about, is everybody coming on time? Is everybody doing it? Even if you are using this platform, be prepared that only 10% of whatever audience you have in front of you might be able to do it as per time. That's okay. So if you are able to bring all subject areas with one theme, what did I do? Used rainbow and connected physical. We, of course, sang a song. I read them a story about the world, you know, which is a Roald story, basically, a black and white world and a world with colors. And I made them understand and appreciate, therefore, the beauty in colors. So if you are able to use music, if you are able to use physical spaces, if you are able to do an experiment, I also showed them an experiment using a a YouTube video. So all elements combined was a 20-minute class. You know what? I found that because it was so fast-paced and because I used only one topic, I was able to achieve a lot in that day. So see how you can therefore innovate using music, physical spaces, and by the way, the homework activity was for them to record themselves in a character in the same story that we did, and use you know, exercise while they were singing or telling me a bit about who they had become. So see how you can you know what, all the videos showed me the next day that they understood the concept. I didn't have to make them write in a worksheet and color it blue and pink and red. I got my answers just through the videos. So see, this is the way you innovate. Hi, Ida, I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, I'm sure. Days of bandwidth issues are here to stay, and I think we all have to get used to it. You know, there's this really one thing that I really wonder. We in city like Mumbai are facing these issues. I really don't know what's happening down in the villages and the small towns. But then again, that's how it is bound to be, and that's how the new normal is. Thank you, Fatima ji. A big thank you for being with us here today. And I really value all your inputs that you shared with us today. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Moving on today's session, we find that you know, a lot of technical issues are faced by educational institutions today. The Kanu Doshi group has been associated with all of our activities from our chamber with a lot of sectors, and especially in the field of education. You know, one of the biggest issues today is the problem with GST compliances, GST issues, how we can educational institutions. Some have not paid fees, there's been shortage of fees, people paying but expenses rising, lots of such issues. In such times, you know, our GST refunds are one of the major things that will infuse capital into our institutions and in our hands for being disposable, for maybe for paying salaries, for expenses. And these are the things that we really need to focus on. These issues are going to be highlighted today by a presentation by Jyoti ji. Jyoti ji is from the Kanu Doshi group. Welcome, Doshi ji.
Hello.
Jyoti ji, can you go from here?
Yes. I'll share the screen and when we are ready to start.
If you are ready, you can go ahead.
Hi, is the screen view? Yes, is the screen
We can't see the screen. We can
yes,
very well see you.
okay. Just a second. Yeah, can you see it now?
Yes, now we can see.
Yes.
Yes, now we can see the screen.
Okay.
I
Great.
request you to go full screen, please.
Yes.
And just for the information of participants, we will be sharing all the details of all the speakers, the companies, their presentations, and with you for all those who have registered through their email addresses. Those who have not registered on the links, please put the email addresses in the chat box so that we can share the details with you.
Okay, Manpreet, is it now viewable full screen?
Yes, 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 we can see full screen.
Yes. Okay, everyone. So we will now go ahead with, just to give you a broad idea about how GST works for education sector. So to ensure that you get the full understanding of how it works for the education sector, we will first briefly run you through the key concepts of GST and how GST works as far as India is concerned. So you can definitely ask questions. You can put your questions in the chat box, and we can take them at the end of the session. Thank you. So in terms of broad, when we say the key concept of GST, it's an indirect tax levy on supply of goods and services, and the ultimate tax is borne by the consumer. It's a destination-based tax. It is applicable on the entire value chain. It's a dual tax. When we say dual tax, what do we mean is like both center and state will be charging it. There are multiple rates of GST. In terms of when you are liable to make payment of GST, you can definitely claim GST paid on the purchases. So these are the broad things where how GST works. In terms of when we say which are the transactions covered by GST, so if you look at the wordings in the act, they say that it is charged on the supply. Now, when we say supply, supply is an inclusive word. It covers sale, transfer, import, any disposal, any license, any exchange. So it covers, apart from goods and services, all these types of different transactions. So it's very important that it is charged on supply. Now, when we, further moving ahead, so, how GST is charged. So it is charged on supply of goods and services. Supply should be done for a consideration. It should be in the course of furtherance of business. It should be made by a taxable person, and supply should be, should have been. So basically, it's very important. So if I'm a person who is unregistered, or if I'm doing any transaction which is not for a furtherance of business, I'm not liable for GST. Yes, Mitesh. Okay. Great. Further, there is also a concept of reverse charge mechanism. Now, how reverse charge is important? In a normal situation, if there is generally a process that a supplier who is supplying either goods or service will make the payment of GST to the government. Now, in case of a reverse charge mechanism, the responsibility is shifted on the receiver of the services. So hence it is very important to understand where, if you are a receiver as an education institution and you are liable for making payment of reverse charge. Now, if you are getting covered under reverse charge mechanism, even if you are providing exempt services and your turnover is also below the threshold, you are still liable to get registered. So this picture will give a clear idea that in a normal situation, you are supplying goods, you will pay price plus GST. In a reverse charge mechanism, you will supply goods, the receiver of goods or service will be liable to pay GST to the government. Now, this concept is very useful, important, and when we go ahead to understand how it is applicable in to education institutions, we will be able to give you more examples. Now, for the reverse charge mechanism, the government has already defined list of services which will get covered. So, just to give you an example, that if you are taking any service from a lawyer, and you are an education institution, you are liable to pay the tax on a reverse charge basis, and not the lawyer, but you will be liable. Similarly, there is a list of services, like if it's a private limited company and you have a director, you are paying a sitting fee to a director who is not an employee, then the recipient is liable to make payment of taxes on reverse charge basis. So there is a list of services which will get covered under reverse charge, and as per that, you should be careful when you're dealing with, when you're buying any services or when you're buying any goods. Similarly, if there is any online software which you're downloading, it's the responsibility is on you to make payment of taxes. So this is a list, and of course it's a long list. We've just specified the broad things which are generally used by the various education institutions. Now there's also a concept of composite and mixed supply. Again, this will be very useful in case of an education sector. So when we talk about composite supply, what do we mean by it? So where you are clubbing two or more taxable goods or supply, okay? So you're bundling it in the ordinary course of business, okay? And it's a natural bundled items. Then it will become a composite supply, and it will be, as the, whatever is the principal supply, at that rate, it will be taxable. Similarly, there is something called mixed supply. Now, the mixed supply is something which is like you just club two or more goods or services, and they are not naturally bundled. Now, in this case, the taxability will be if there are more than one or two items, whichever has the highest rate will get taxed at. So this is very important. I'll give you an example, and this will really help you to understand. Say if you're buying a mobile phone, and along with that, the mobile case is free. The principal supply is mobile, and hence, if the mobile is whatever is the tax rate, GST rate for mobile, the same will be applicable for the whole transaction. Similarly, there is another example that is a supply of organic fertilizers, and we say that we will even give you a free transport delivery, or we will, it is along with the transport also. Now, the principal supply is fertilizer, which is exempt currently under GST, hence no tax is also payable on the transport charges. Now, this is an example of a mixed supply. So you may have experienced at various time, so that there is a goods are bundled or clubbed, though they are naturally not going with each other. So say like Coca-Cola and a chocolate. So there is a supply of a soft drink and a chocolate. It's a mixed supply. So both can be sold individually in its own terms, and they are generally not naturally bundled. Now the tax rate, which is the highest tax rate, if Coca-Cola is taxed at 28% and chocolate is taxed at 18%, this is just an example, then the total price, 28% will be charged. So these are certain basic concepts in GST which we have run you through. What is the basic, on what GST is charged, that is supply. There are different types of supplies like mixed supply, composite supply, and then also a concept of reverse charge mechanism. Now I will take you to the education services and how GST, what are GST exemptions and what are the basic charging sections under GST, which allows you to, understand better how education institute GST will be applicable. Now, if you look at education as a word, it is not defined under GST Act. There is a Supreme Court decision where education is defined. It says that it's a process of training and developing knowledge, skills, and character of a student. Education is a prime priority for Indian government, and hence through GST, what government has tried to do is to give a balance where the core education services are, they've tried to give maximum exemptions to the core education services and have defined certain ancillary education activities which they may, give text. Okay, so government has tried to create a balance. It will be, it is very difficult to say whether that balance is created or not. However, it's the way the government has tried to do the exemptions. Now, moving ahead in terms of the basic yes. Now, in terms of the basic question which generally education institutions have is that when to get registered, or is it registration compulsory for us? So it is very important to understand that if you are providing only exempted services, then registration is not compulsory for you. If you are providing services which is mixed, registered and exempt and non-exempt, then you must get registered. Okay. Now, in terms of education sector, what is place of supply? Okay. Now, under GST, it is very important to understand that flexibility, whether IGST, CGST or SGST will be levied, is determined on the basis of place of supply. Now, in case of an education sector, supply, if I'm doing a supply to a registered person, then it will be always the location of such person. If I'm doing a supply to an unregistered person, then the supply will be where the event is held or where the performance has been done. So generally for an education sector, what happens is that students are generally an unregistered person. It's a B2C kind of a activity. Now, hence, if I'm in Maharashtra, then it will be, I'll be paying CGST, SGST for the Maharashtra. Okay, if I am in Tamil Nadu, I'll be paying CGST and SGST of Tamil Nadu. Okay, and IGST will not be applicable. So this is again very important to understand. Similar, so there is in terms of place of supply. Just a second. Yes, so this is a broad rule of how GST will be applicable. So for education sector, which involves training performance, it's a place of performance, which is very important, and hence the location of the event, which is the education institute, that will be, so in that particular state, it will be taxable. Okay, now this is the most important section where under GST they've made education institute taxable. So they've described which are the education institute or how they will be taxed. So they've given two main sections, and it's very important that services provided by education institutions to its students, faculty and staff, that will be, these are the services which will be taxed at nil rate. Similarly, they've also given clearly that services provided to an education institutions, and there is a list of services like transport, catering, security, services relating to admissions and examinations, and again there is a nil rate of tax. Okay, we'll cover all these items as we go ahead. Okay. Now, so first we will take care of services rendered by an education institution. Okay. Now this will cover, so this is very important that any education institution providing services in by way of preschool up to higher secondary school or equivalent will have nil rate of tax. That means they will be exempt. Similarly, any education which is covering a curriculum, at the end of which is providing a qualification to any student, which is recognized by the law of the land. Okay, so any education or a degree which is recognized by any law in
Jyotiji, please unmute yourself.
yes, yes. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, loud and clear, loud and clear.
Yes, okay. Now, so just to clarify everyone is that any education institute which is providing preschool, primary school education up to 12th standard or equivalent to 12th, that is exempt. Similarly, if I am providing any degree which is recognized by law, so any qualification which is recognized by law of India, that is again exempt. So one more important thing to be noted here is that whether it's a government institute or a private sector institute, if they are fulfilling these conditions of providing education to preschool up to 12th standard and providing a degree or a qualification which is recognized by any law in India, it's exempt. So that something is very important and please make a note of it. Okay, so again, just to give you an example, if you are running any course which is providing a certificate or a degree of a foreign institute or a foreign country, then that will not be exempt in India. So just to clarify that, so the education should be provided in any degree, college, university or institute which leads to a qualification which is recognized by Indian law. Okay. Now similarly, one more important thing to be noted is that if you're providing any education as a part of an approved vocational education course, which is approved by National Council for Vocational Training or any skills development council, then again that will be exempt. So this is very important to note down that any course which is approved by any ministry of skill development, then again it will go for an approval. So any vocational courses also and any other courses which is approved by Skill Development Authority of India. So any services which you are providing, which is approved by National Skill Development Corporation or any sectoral skill development council, like all the mobile operators in India, if they are providing any skills development courses which are approved by the sectoral skill council of Government of India, then that will go for an exemption. Similarly, if any skill or vocational training courses which are approved by National Council for Vocational Training and the Deen Dayal Upadhyay Gramin Kaushal Yojana, again that will be exempt. So if these services are provided to any government administration under any training program, and if the expenditures are borne by government or a state or a union territory, again it will fall under the exemption. Now this is one more exemption which is specifically given to education activities by a charitable institution. Now, when we say charitable institution, is those who are registered under Section 12AA of Income Tax Act, and if they are providing education or skill development activities in the areas which are specifically listed in GST. So this is very important. So they have said that if you are providing services relating to abandoned, homeless or orphan children, either in education or a skill development, if you're providing education and skill development to physically or mentally challenged students or people, if the services are provided to business, if is a specific program which is run in a rural area for old people. So 65 years and above, then again this charitable institution will have an exemption. Now, these are certain examples which will clarify your understanding of this charitable institution. So if I'm a charitable institution running an education program for people above 65 years in Mumbai, will I get an exemption? The answer is no, because the condition is it has to be a rural area. If you are running a program in rural area, then only you get an exemption. Similarly, if I'm in charitable institution and if I'm running a program in a rural area for all the people, so not only 65 years and above, but even for other people, then will I get an exemption? The answer is no, because it's like it has to be specifically for old people above 65 years. The partial exemption is not available. Similarly, if I'm running an education program for orphans, abandoned or homeless children, yes, the exemption is available. If I am running a program, if I'm running a education program till HSC, anyways, this is exempt under other entry also, and it's not a specific exemption for charitable trust. If I'm running any other education course other than the curriculum which is approved by government, will I get an exemption? The answer is no. Okay, so it's very important that the curriculum is approved by the government of India, either as part of UGC or either as part of primary education, secondary education, or pre-primary education, or by the National Council of Skill Development. Okay, so it's very important that there is an approved syllabus. Okay, now these are few more examples which will ensure that you've understood the exemptions very clearly. So if I'm a coaching center and I'm running a distance education, will I get an exemption? The answer is no. GST will be applicable because I'm not running any course which is approved by Government of India. If I'm running any training program, camps, yoga programs, will I get an exemption? No, and it will be taxable under this thing. Now here you must understand that if I'm in a yoga institute and running a course which is giving a qualification or a degree at the end of the yoga course, and I've taken an approval from National Skill Development or any other such approved authority, I will get an exemption. But it is very important that if I'm just running these courses, then I will not get an exemption. Similarly, if I'm distributing any uniform schools, a uniform or a stationery, will I get an exemption? The answer is no. Now here, one thing has to be clearly understood is that there's a specific exemption given to books. So if there's a distribution of books, the books as such are exempt under GST. So this is something you can definitely note down. Now, in terms of, just to give you one more example, that if I'm a college and I'm running a canteen facility, so will this be an exempt? So if the college is providing food, then that will be a taxable activity because the catering is exempted only up to 12th standard. Okay, so for any other education institutions, catering or a canteen facility is a taxable activity under GST. So it is very important to understand, what is exempted and what is not exempted. Okay. Now, if this we have already touched upon, that if I'm an education institution and I'm providing education, all the services which I'm providing is exempt, then I'm not required to register. But if I'm providing exempt and non-exempt services, both, then I'm liable to register. So anybody has got any question till date? Because see, what we have covered is the services provided by an education institutions to students, teachers, and their staff. Now we are going to cover services rendered to the education institutions. Okay, when we are saying services rendered to the education institutions, what all will get covered? Education institutions generally will have a transporter who is supporting them, transport students and everything. They will have somebody who is helping them with entrance exams. They might have securities. They might have housekeeping staff, and so on and so forth. So now we are going to cover services provided to an education institutions. Okay, so this will basically cover transport, catering, security, cleaning, and housekeeping services. Now here it is very important to know that if you are a preschool or you are education institutions who is providing education up to higher secondary, that is till 12th standard, then this is exempt for you. Okay, so just to give you an example, if I'm a contractor and I'm providing you, you are in education institutions, I'm running school buses for you, then whatever services I'm providing to you is also exempt under GST. Okay, so this is very important. Similarly, a security service provided to an education institution who is running an education up to 12th is exempt. Cleaning, housekeeping services is also exempt. Even catering is exempt. Okay, so these are the services provided up to 12th standard is exempt. Okay, now similarly, beyond 12th standard, if I am receiving such services as an education institution, then those will be taxable. Okay, so if I'm a degree college and I have a canteen contractor, it's taxable. If I'm a degree college and I have a security services which I'm receiving, it's taxable. Okay. Now similarly, there is a service called services relating to admissions and conducting exams. Then all this service is exempt for all education institutions, even degree, even primary, secondary, everyone. Okay. Now there is one more item which is specifically mentioned is supply of online education journals and periodicals. Now again, this is only exempt for, so here the confusion starts. So this, if I'm a preschool, if I'm providing any education journals and periodicals to students, then it's a taxable service. Up to 12th standard, it is taxable. However, it is not taxable for any degree or other courses which are recognized by government. So this is a synopsis of services rendered to education institutions. Now we will look at certain examples which will help you to understand, So if there is a school bus service provided to schools, is it exempt? The answer is yes. Okay. If it is a school bus service, but provided to a daycare students, which is attached to a preschool, now that transport service is taxable because daycare is a taxable service. Okay. If I'm providing catering services to school, is it exempt? The answer is yes. If I'm providing catering services to degree college, it is not exempt and it's a taxable. Okay. Now, if I'm providing housekeeping services to a graduation degree college, it is again taxable. Now, if there is a subscription charges which we are taking for in online education journals, okay, and that education institution is a degree college, okay, and will they get the exemption? The answer is yes. Okay, so this will, so this is how under GST they have defined various services which is rendered to education institutions and rendered by education institution, and they've given various exemptions. Any questions at this point in time?
Everybody is on mute, so I don't think they'll be able to answer. Let me unmute everyone or allow them to unmute once again.
Yeah.
Okay, we have I have allowed all participants, they can unmute themselves and they can ask questions. Please feel free.
So you can note down your questions in the chat box also, and we can come back to it at the end of the session. No problem. Yes, now moving ahead in terms of, this is just key concepts, which will again help you in terms of understanding. So if you're in education institutions, you are exempt from GST. Okay, but whatever services you are receiving from a third party, other than services which has got an exemption, you will be paying GST on all such services. So GST will definitely become a cost for you for all third-party services which you are receiving. There is no exemption. Okay. Now, procurement-related exemption differs based on the type of education institution. So if I am an education institution up to 12th standard, then of course there are a list of services which is exempt for me. Similarly, if I'm an education institution till degree, then there are certain exemptions which are not available to me. Okay. Now, if there are services which are rendered by third party or it has been outsourced by education institutions, then again it will depend on how it is taken ahead. Okay. So just to give you an example, if you are an education institution, you are providing canteen facility. Okay, then if you are providing that canteen facility to students, it is exempt. But if you appoint a third party service provider and you tell them that you run this canteen, whatever revenue you get, that is yours, school or college is not responsible for it. If a third party is independently running a canteen, then it is a taxable activity. So it has to be clearly understood that how it works. Okay. Now moving ahead, these are just certain matters which GST Council has clarified because they have realized that there's a lot of confusion. So this now, the example which I gave is that any supply of food or beverage GST is leviable, say, at the rate of 5%. If I'm an education institution, and if I'm supplying it to my students, my faculty, to my staff, then it is exempt. But if I appoint a third party and allow them to supply within the school premises, then it is taxable because it is not provided by the school, it is provided by somebody third party. Similarly, if I'm providing any qualifications which are recognized by any foreign country, again it will be a taxable under GST. Now, if I am an international school, however, the course curriculum is equivalent to education up to HSC, then again I can still get the exemptions. Only thing is I need to ensure that all my syllabus and all is approved by relevant government agency. So it's very important to understand that how this is working and how GST is applicable to all types of different courses. Now, we're just giving you various scenarios which will allow you to, understand GST much better. Okay. So if I am in education institutions and I have got sponsorship income, will it be taxable? The answer is yes. Okay. So, various education institutions, they have sponsorship income and that is taxable under GST. Similarly, various education institutions, they organize various carnivals or various fairs like book fair or various other things. And will it be a taxable income? The answer is yes, because it is not fitting into a clearly defined criteria under GST Act. Similarly, if I'm in education institutions and I'm conducting workshops Now, even though this workshop, now here I would like to mention, if there are workshops which are part of the syllabus or the curriculum, and of course it will be part of the overall education only, and it will be covered in the exemption. But if I'm organizing certain separate workshops other than the syllabus, and I'm collecting charges for such workshop, then that will be a taxable income for the education institution. Similarly, if there are interbranch supplies, again, it will get affected under GST. If there are franchisees, which education institution is giving and receiving a franchisee fee for using the brand name, then again, it will be a taxable supply under GST. If I'm running a sports academy, and if there is no approval to such sports academy by National Skills Development Authorities, then again it will be a taxable supply. Now we see various education institutions who run various sports activities as a separate chargeable, you know, and it's an optional activity available to students that they can enroll to it. Now such will be a taxable GST supply. Okay, so these are various examples which we have given so that you can understand that an education institution might be doing all such activities and will get taxed under GST. Now, these are various scenarios where again GST will be applicable. Now, this will be, just to give you an example, like if I'm an education institution and I have a building which I have let out for some other purpose, then that rent is taxable. Similarly, if I'm affiliated to any foreign university and there are any contributions, then again it will be a taxable affair. If we are collecting any counseling fees, any management fees or any such thing, then it will be a taxable affair. Okay, now, so again, if I'm making payment of, yes? Any questions? Okay, now, if I'm making payment of any services, like counseling fees, management fees, or some such things, then again it will be a taxable affair for me. Now, see, again, this is very important concept in terms of ITC. Now, if I'm as an education institution, so I'm doing various purchases also, and if I'm paying GST also on such purchases. So if I'm doing any purchases, then I need to understand that as an education institutions, I will have various, if I'm registered, I can claim ITC also. So I will briefly run you through in terms of concept of ITC so that you can clearly understand. Okay. Now to avail ITC, there are clear guidelines. So say all the input services on which I have paid GST, I can avail for the year 1920, I can avail till September 20 or till I file the annual return. Similarly, I can claim ITC only for input tax credit only for such purchases where my suppliers or vendors have paid GST and they filed their returns. Now, this rule has been currently, government has relaxed it due to COVID-19 issues. Now, moving ahead, in terms of if I'm an education institution, then if I'm buying vehicles for transportation of students, if those vehicles are having capacity more than 13%, then only I will be able to claim input credit when I'm buying such vehicles. And all expenses related to such vehicles like insurance, repairs and maintenance, I will be able to claim ITC. Similarly, if I am constructing any building, okay, I have a space and I'm constructing any building, it's an immovable property, all the GST which are paid while buying materials and everything, I will not be able to use as input credit, because for construction of an immovable property, the input credit is not allowed. Okay. Now, one more important aspect relating to input credit availment is that if I am in education institutions and I have got exempt and non-exempt supply, ITC also I'll be able to take proportionately. Okay. So just to give you an example, that if I'm an education institution, my total revenue is say 10 CR. Out of that, 8 CR is taxable and 2 CR is exempt. Then my ITC also I will be able to claim in an 80-20 ratio. So this is something very important, and this has to be done on a monthly basis when I'm filing my returns of returns under GST. So this is very important to ensure that whatever inputs I'm claiming, I claim in the ratio of exempt supply and non-exempt supply. So whatever is my revenue, the revenue which is taxable, on that only I'll be able to claim the input credit. So there are various other rules pertaining to, in the same ratio you can take for capital goods also. Yeah, and there are so these are just an example. So when we share the presentation, you can definitely go through such example. Yes, Manpreet. So I'm done from my side, and we are open for questions.
Okay. Anyone having any questions, please feel free to ask. Jyoti ji's number is flashing on the screen anyways at her bottom. And we'll also be sharing the presentation from our side along with all the contact details of all speakers. Any questions? Please feel free to...
Jeffrey Moira.
Any questions?
Student Moira apply mafat. Free માં ને આપણે માર જાવ ડિગ્રી જો ભાઈડો ડિગ્રી આપણે હે બાર
Okay. Looks like no questions. Anyways, we'll be sharing all the details with everybody along with the presentations. I request all of you all to please be with us. And thank you so much, Jyoti ji, for such an innovative and detailed discussion on the GST services by the educational institutes and how they can benefit from the schemes and what are the services that they can utilize for their input tax credits, for output, what is exempt, what is not. I mean, it's a great deal of information that you've been sharing with us today. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, let's move on to our next speaker for the day today. And that is one of our partners that has been there since a few years now, which is Nesco. Nesco, as we all aware, is one of the largest exhibition organizers of India. And they have been organizing the EduTech event in the recent past. And I now call upon Neha ji to please take over the dais and explain how the educational institutions can diversify their revenue. Neha ji?
Yeah. Thanks, Manpreet. Myself, Neha Chaudhary from EduTech India. I'm very glad to be part of this exciting webinar and more glad to be associated with ICIB as partners of EduTech India. Thank you, Manpreet, for having us here. I'll be talking about diversification in revenue models. After this pandemic, especially after this pandemic where everyone has been facing minor or major financial crisis, we have now realized why diversification in revenue models is become very crucial for the future of any company. It is very easy to become complacent when revenue is flowing in. You begin to rely on that one income stream and you are reluctant to tackle fresh opportunities and to take and you don't want to take any risk. But in a long run, this approach will leave you vulnerable. What if this income stream dies? You still have to pay your outgoings and then you try to adjust and then find a new revenue source. So this is why diversification in revenue models is very important for the future of any company. I'll explain you with the help of how we as exhibition organizers do this. The benefits of diversification also helps any company to maximize their use of resources and also to fully realize what is their potential. So as an exhibition organizer, I'll explain you how. The mainstream business, like the main sales stream for us, is selling a stall space to a client. That's our main business. But what if the client says no, he doesn't want to be part of the exhibition as an exhibitor and doesn't want to put a stall space? That's not the end of the story. So this is how we diversify our business, and by using our available resources, we offer the client a platter of offerings. So not just a stall space, he can be part of our conference, he can be part of our awards, he can be part of our on-site promotions, he can be part of our digital campaigns, also he can be part of our road shows. If not that, then we can give them other offerings. But yes, we have to give them other offerings by using our available resources. So that's how we have to identify what our business is good at and better than the competitors, and also to see the available resources. We have to maximize that and keep on going and diversifying the business. We can't just be always relying on that one single sales force, which will not help the business to grow. So that's how I would like to add that diversification of revenue models is always important. No matter how well your business is doing, you cannot afford to be complacent. That's how now after this pandemic, everyone has realized, and we should keep on adding and moving to that. One more thing that I would like to add is, especially after this pandemic, when we realized that everything was going well, we were selling good, everything was happening well. But later on, we'll realize that now there is a there is no more sales happening. We have to diversify the business. Then the importance of diversification of business came more to the mind. So that's all I want to say, that don't be just dependent on one single source. Identify your potential, identify your resources, make the most of it, and always keep on going. It will definitely help you and help your company grow. That's it from my side. Manpreet, anything else that you want me to add?
I think that's perfect.
Any questions?
And Nehaji, if you can, yeah, we're just opening up for questions. I'm just unmuting everybody.
Sure.
We're now open for questions for any of the speakers. If you all have any questions for me or Neha or Jyotiji or Patibaji, please feel free to ask anything related to your business, your institution, and the topics of today. Please go ahead, unmute yourself, introduce yourself, and we'll be listening.
I think
Or any kind of feedback from anyone also. Looks like everything was very clear for everyone.
We'll definitely share the recording of this to the viewers, and if there is any question, they can drop us an email on the email ID shared, which is office@icib.org.in. Anything?
I think that's about it then. Thank you so much, everyone, for being with us here today, listening to all of us and staying with us right till the end. I thank all. Can you all hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, now. Yes, Manpreet, yes.
Yeah, bandwidth issues. Anyways. So thank you so much, everyone. A big thank you from ICIB, the Indian Chamber of International Business. It's a pleasure to interact with all the educational institutions today. We are joined today with people from North India, South India, East India, West India, Central India. We've got people from Jaipur, Amritsar, Delhi, Chennai, Kerala, Calcutta, and you name it. You know, we have an amazing forum today. And thank you so much for being with us and right till the end. I would like to specially thank the speakers today, Jyoti ji, Fatima ji, Meha ji. It's been a great interaction and all your topics were very well highlighted. Thank you so much once again. I'd like to share the email address once again. Please feel free to share the feedback. Any kind of information that you need for any of the topics, we'll be happy to connect with you with all the speakers. Email address is office, OFFICE, @icib.org.in. Office @icib.org.in. Please also share your email addresses in the chat boxes in case you all have not registered, so that we can forward all this information to you by email. Thank you once again. It's been a pleasure. And we'll be sharing the recording also with all of you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Manpreet.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Jyoti, we can stop the meeting.
Okay, yeah, thank you.